Okay, so we did through 15, so we're starting with 16 today. Okay. Provided I become a Buddha, there should be no evil or sinful existence in my Pure Land. Even its very name is unknown. Otherwise, may I not attain awakening. So it's not totally clear what is meant by evil or sinful existence. Usually, very often, evil existence refers to the three lower realms. So it could be that, I think, put on your list to retranslate the 48. Or maybe Venerable Pema, you can do that. And, and then, so he's saying that the three lower or unfortunate realms aren't going to be found anywhere in his Pure Land. Or maybe he's just talking about really negative behavior that, creates, just negativity. So making the Pure Land a negative existence in the sense of, being an uncomfortable place to live. Yeah, he could be meaning that. But I don't know because I don't have we need to check the translation on that. So it could be either of them. 17, provided I become a Buddha, if the immeasurable Buddhas of the worlds of 10 directions do not glorify my name, then may I not attain awakening. Now, we may say, why does Amitabha need the Buddhas of 10 directions to glorify his name? I don't think he needs that. He doesn't have ego problems. He doesn't need to be reaffirmed that he's worthwhile, that he's contributing, that he deserves to be in the Pure Land. There's none of this kind of insecurity in Amitabha needing anybody else to glorify his name. What it reminded me of, though, is in one of the benefits of generating bodhicitta is that all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas praise you. Yeah. So it doesn't mean they're praising you because you're special. It means that, anybody who has the bodhicitta, because the bodhicitta is so special, is worthy of praise. Okay, so it's not praising the person, but praising the quality. So that's what that it reminded me of here. Yeah. Again, I'm not sure if that's what is meant, but that is what it reminded me of. Yeah, but for sure, Amitabha doesn't need the Buddhas to. Sometimes, in Amitabha's case, if other Buddhas would praise him or glorify his name, that might make other sentient beings become interested in what Amitabha is doing and open the door for him to be able to benefit them. Okay, so it's in that kind of way that praise or something functions on the bodhisattva path. It's not to reassure you that you're an okay, but it's to show other people that, what this person is doing is good and you should follow them and learn from them. Okay, so I think it also implies that. Yeah. Okay, then 18, provided I become a Buddha, if the beings of the 10 directions who, after having heard my name and thus awakened their highest faith and aspiration of rebirth in my Pure Land, even they have recollected such a thought for 10 times only, they are destined to be born there, with the exception of those who have committed the 5 heinous crimes and who have deprecated the Dharma. Otherwise, may I not attain awakening. Okay, so this is one of the unshakable resolves that's often spoke about when he said that people need only think about and recite his name 10 times and then they will be reborn there. Again, I don't think that's literally the case, because if it were, why did the Buddha give all the other teachings? It doesn't make any sense at all. So I think what it's referring to, what does, what is it specifically here? Okay, so they have their highest faith and aspiration. So it's not just like they're looking for an easy way out and they want to be free of samsaric problem for their own sake, but they have, their highest aspiration for Buddhahood and thus to be born there. And then they have recollected that thought for 10 times only. Okay, so that's like saying, to people, for people who have generated bodhicitta 10 times, yeah, then they've put their mental continuum in such a place where it quite naturally is going to take rebirth there. Okay, so I don't think it's necessarily meaning that you have to have actualized bodhicitta and entered the Mahayana path, but to have very strong bodhicitta such that it really moves your heart. If you've done that 10 times and with that motivation aspired for rebirth in Amitabha's Pure Land. Okay. But again, these are my interpretations because I can't see it being so easy as just, thinking about Amitabha's Pure Land 10 times and reciting his name 10 times, and then 100 million times you're looking up to cheat your competitors so you can get more money, and 100 million times you're, angry at other people and blaming them. Okay, so somehow you have to put these kinds of things in proportion. Okay. But then here he's definitely excluding from that people who've committed the 5 heinous crimes and people who have deprecated the Dharma. And so the 5 heinous crimes, killing your mother, your father, an arhat, causing schism in the Sangha, and deprecating, drawing blood from the Buddha. Okay? And so those are seen as 5 actions. They're often called the, actions without boundaries, because the idea is as soon as you die, you go to the hell realm. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. But the Vajrayana definitely says you can purify those, and I think Mahayana says as well, yeah. But still, here, that becomes a really big impediment. And as I've mentioned several times before, I think we need to be very careful about that, considering the things of assisted suicide and so on that's happening nowadays. So those people are excluded. And then the other people are people who deprecate the Dharma. And deprecating the Dharma, could be just trashing the Dharma. Oh, the Buddha doesn't know what he's talking about. And, something we normally would say is deprecation. But also deprecating the Dharma or abandoning the Dharma means ignoring what the Buddha taught or twisting what the Buddha taught and giving it another meaning that is not the meaning that the Buddha had. Okay? So, for example, saying, well, the Buddha didn't teach rebirth. Things like that, where you're really, you're cherry picking the Dharma and twisting things so that the Buddha just is happening to say what you like. Yeah. And that isn't always the case. There's sometimes things written in the scriptures that we don't agree with. Yeah. And I think it's like His Holiness with Mount Meru and that whole structure. So he has reasons for not following that structure, but he's not criticizing the Dharma and making up something false. Yeah. In the terms of some kind of ethical things, where today's standards are very different than they were at the time of the Buddha, I think also it's fine to shift certain ethical things. Because at the time of the Buddha, going to courtesans was fine, having many wives was fine. In old Tibet, having many husbands was the way they kept property in the family. In our culture, these kinds of things don't go. Okay, but then there's other things that we think are okay now that they didn't think are okay then. So I think some of those kinds of things where it depends a lot on just the societal way of thinking of people at that particular time, then there can be some, movement in it. But it has to be done quite carefully. Yeah, quite carefully. And without criticism. Okay, then 19. Provided I become a Buddha, if the beings of 10 directions who have directed their thoughts towards the Bodhi, or towards enlightenment, and cultivated their stock of various merits with a fervent craving for rebirth in my Pure Land, if at the moment of death should I not appear with an assembly of retinue before them, then may I not attain awakening. Okay, so here it's really talking about the kind of things we need to cultivate in this life. If we expect Amitabha to appear before us and take us there, which again doesn't mean literally that Amitabha is appearing before us. Hi, there you go. Or is it meaning that our mind is directing itself or being inspired by Amitabha to direct itself in that way? Yeah, so the appearance of Amitabha, I think that can be open to Amitabha appearing in different ways to different kinds of practitioners. And it doesn't have to be like, okay, I'm here, are you packed and ready? Okay, but here is what is necessary. Okay, so it's the beings of the 10 directions, so it applies widely. They've directed their thoughts towards the Bodhi, towards enlightenment. Okay, so it's people who have, with bodhicitta, directed their mind towards attaining supreme enlightenment. 1. 2, they've cultivated their stock of merit. Okay, so of the 2 collections, they've done a lot of work in terms of the collection of merit, instead of the collection of non-virtue. And 3, with a fervent craving for rebirth in my Pure Land. So it's like really intense, and they really want to be born there. It's not just, well, yeah, it sounds good, but it's something really intense, and the person very much, is aspiring towards that. Okay, so then with those 3 things intact, then, Amitabha would appear in one way or another with an assembly of bodhisattvas before them when they die. The idea being there that would guide them to awakening. But like I said, I don't think that necessarily means that you have a vision of Amitabha at the time of death. It could mean that, but because you think, what is having a vision of Amitabha? How does that help you? And it's like, if you understand the real meaning of Amitabha, if you understand who Amitabha really is, then the physical appearance of Amitabha is not so important to you. It's important that you actualize the form body for the benefit of others, okay? But I think if you have an understanding of emptiness and you're seeing Amitabha as a manifestation of qualities, that then the particular appearance is may happen or may not happen, but the inner connection with Amitabha can be very strong. That's what I'm getting at. Okay? So that was, okay, then 20, and then we'll pause. Provided I become a Buddha, if the beings of 10 directions, after having heard my name, always longing for rebirth in my Pure Land, and cultivating various essential merits for the purpose of realizing their earnest wish to be born in my land, should their fulfillment be failed, then may I not attain awakening. So this is similar, but again, laying out certain conditions. Beings of the 10 directions, okay? So they have to have heard his name. Now, what does hearing Amitabha's name mean? Does that just mean somebody says, oh, there's a Buddha named Amitabha? Yeah. So this is something to think about. What does it really mean to hear Amitabha's name? But that's one condition. Always longing for rebirth in his Pure Land. So again, that very firm aspiration that is directing the mind in that direction. Okay? And cultivating various essential merits for the purpose of realizing their earnest wish. Okay, so again, the collection of merit done with the motivation to realize that goal. Okay, so it's not just doing virtuous activities, where the action's virtuous, but your motivation isn't really clear. It's, very specifically having a virtuous intention and having it be directed towards rebirth in Sukhavati. Okay, so then if they aren't born in his land, should their fulfillment be failed if they aren't born in his land, then may he not attain awakening.
The topic of what it means to hear Amitabha Buddha's name, I think Venerable Jen Kerr shared with us she loves the Sanskrit etymology of Amitabha, which I can't tell you what it is, but I think it relates to the idea of infinite hope, I think. Or maybe there are ways to explain it that encompass, the same way you could explain Om Mani Padme Hum to encompass all the Buddha's teachings. I wonder if it means that.
Yeah, that's a good way to see it. Okay.